Yeah, I am. Dale, I think you were there. Who we got? Deborah Heslin, Grant Foster, great to see you. Only just saw you. Can't believe how long it's been since I last saw you. Joe Bradford, yeah, out in Nashville. Jenny Warner, hi Jenny. Sean. Oh, loads of people popping in now. Liz Oliver, Pat O'Connor, Carmel. Hey Carmel, how you doing? Sandra, Caroline DeHay, Claire Miller, hi. Jeff Fairfield, Andy Donovan, Roger. Can't believe, it's been a long time, Roger. Andrew Alloway, Phil Atkinson up in Fife. Frank. I'm gonna have to come, Phil. I'm gonna have to come up with more places in Scotland. I'm running out. Stella James, Leor Nolan, how are you doing? Lisa Moore.
I'm good, thanks.
Good. Great to hear it. David there. Oops, we've got somebody up here want to get in. And Borders. Let me let them in. Yep. Tomo, how are you doing, Tomo? Carol Evans, how are you doing, Carol?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Been enjoying the series?
Good, thank you. Linda Weatherly there on the couch. Yeah, Rob Warren, how are you doing, Rob? Good to see you again.
Hi, good to see you too.
Who else we got? Liz Martin, Debbie Delvis. Oh, we've got quite a full night tonight, which is what I kind of quite expected, even though it's kind of like school's going back and everybody is so busy. Sylvie there in the Netherlands, and Johannes. Liz Martin. Who's this coming in? Peter. Sally just let him in. Yeah. So let's get started. So slightly different setup because I anticipated I would be standing up more for this particular session than I have been previously. So and some people have been saying, what's David drinking in his 100% Legend mug? Well, it's Yorkshire tea, which I love. And by the way, I didn't buy this for myself. I didn't buy 100% Legend a mug for myself. It was some of our delegates on one of a particular training that we ran that bought all of the trainers, including Sally, 100% Legend mug. Here we go. Somebody else is just coming in. Let them in. Okay. So the big one, the mystery of sex transmutation. So, I've had some email dialogues about this as far as this chapter is concerned, about it being quite sexist. And you've got to bear in mind when Napoleon Hill wrote this, probably originally in the 1920s, certainly 1930s, when the world was a very values level 4 world. And I'm running a masterclass on values levels in a couple of months' time online, which I think is some absolutely phenomenal content, and really gives you an understanding of these kind of values changes that people and the world go through. But when Napoleon Hill wrote this book, it was predominantly a values level 4 world, and the book is predominantly values level 5. So values level 4 is the, what would you call it? Authoritarian command and control. It's still most of the world, actually, at this point in time. Sacrifice yourself now for salvation later. Work hard doing something you don't really like doing, and then you'll get a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, which is your pension. Values level 4, and that kind of started to break down. Values level 5 is entrepreneurial, and we've got to admit that Think and Grow Rich was probably their first values level 5 big seller book. So we need to bear that in mind when we read the book. So when Napoleon Hill is talking about men and talking about women in this chapter, he's more talking about polarity. So what I want to do is really go a little bit off-piste on this chapter, because there's so much allegory in this chapter, because I don't think Napoleon Hill could really say what he knew or what he was thinking. And then also, maybe he didn't really know the full teachings of what he was saying. So I'm going to go off piste. I'm going to share some stuff with you. This, by the way, if this particular session should probably come with a parental advisory warning. If there are children watching in the room, it might be worthwhile telling them to go somewhere else, just in case. Yeah, just so I can share this with you the way that I want to share it with you. So the whole thing is about energy. And, we've talked before about this, that all energy is energy. Therefore, just let somebody else in. Money is energy, you are energy, the world is energy, the universe is energy. That's what it all comes down to. But what Napoleon Hill is talking about specifically in this chapter is what he calls sexual emotion. Well, that's a bit of a strange combination of words for me, in that, sex isn't an emotion. It's a physical act, obviously. And is there an energy around it? I think this is what he was really talking about. So he's talking about sexual energy. So what we've got in our body is an energy system. So we are energetic beings. We are electromagnetic beings in modern science points of term. And the energy, and he talks about this in the chapter, the energy vibrates at different frequencies. So in our body, we have our physical body. This thing has substance. And then we have 4 other bodies, which are non-physical. They are energetic. We have our emotional body, our mental body, and our spiritual body. And though those upper bodies, the energetic bodies, are actually divided into 2. So we have a lower emotional, upper emotional, lower mental, upper mental, lower spiritual, upper spiritual, which means we've got 7 bodies. Now, I'm not going to go into detail about the bodies and all those kind of things. If you want to get information about that, they're all in a HUNA webinar that is available to you. We'll share it into the group. So therefore, we've got 7 energy bodies, also related to what some of you may be aware of, the 7 chakras. And the important thing that we've got to get here is that all energy is energy. Just where it appears in our body determines how we experience it. So energy in the first chakra is the energy of groundedness, stability. Energy in the second chakra, which obviously is one we're going to be talking about a lot this evening, is sexual energy, the energy of sexual attraction. Then we have energy in the third chakra, solar plexus, the energy of personal power, willpower, etc. Fourth chakra, heart chakra, the energy of love, nurturing, being the caregiver, those kind of things, being the lover from an archetypal point of view. Fifth chakra, throat, energy of expression and communication. Sixth chakra, third eye, is the energy of vision, being visionary, but not only the vision that we look through our eyes, but being the visionary as being able to visualize the future. And then 7 is pure spiritual energy. So the thing that's important here that we get is that all energy is energy. Where it appears in the body determines how we experience that energy. So therefore, there is no difference between sexual energy in the second chakra and spiritual energy in the 7th chakra, just where it appears in the body, which is why you have such teachings as, you know, the teachings of tantric sex. So it was appeared in HUNA as a lower eye. It appears in the Taoist teachings, is that by certain sexual practices, you can increase the energy in this chakra, the 2nd chakra, and then raise it to the 7th chakra to increase your spiritual energy. Okay. So that's not, though, what we're going to be talking about tonight. We're going to be talking about specifically about sexual energy and the relationship between sexual energy and money. So let's just broaden this thing out from money to our ability to create what it is that we want to create on the physical plane, whether it be money, whether it be anything else. So to create on the physical plane requires an abundance of energy on the next plane above. So let's just think about this for a second. The purpose of sexual energy and sexual attraction is for a creation on the physical plane, as in another human life force. Though that's very, very specific, and it's not only what this energy on this plane is about. So the energy on this plane, the 2nd plane of existence, sexual energy, is the creative force that creates everything on the physical plane. Just want you to get that. The energy on the second level, the sexual level, is the energy that comes down to create anything that's on the physical plane, whether that be a baby, whether it be money, whether it be anything else. So the amount of energy you have here is directly related to your ability to create on the physical plane. This is what Napoleon Hill was saying about, all the people that he interviewed. And we talked about whether he actually interviewed these people or not, doesn't really matter. All the people he interviewed were classed as being men. We'll blow that one out for a start. Men who were highly sexually charged. Now, a lot of people might read that and go like, men who are like got loads of sexual energy, they're going like playing around the field or whatever it may be. Maybe that's what they did at that particular point in time, at that point of history. But that's not really the point. It doesn't matter whether you're male or female, the amount of energy you've got in the second chakra will impact what you can create on the physical plane. And Napoleon Hill said a lot of stuff about everybody researched behind every successful, powerful man was an influential woman. So let's talk about that. Now, that comes into the matter of polarity. So there is a polarity, an energetic polarity. So there's a positive pole and a negative pole. It's a bit like all of us are like a battery. There's a battery I've got here with a positive pole at the top, negative pole at the bottom. And universally in all spiritual teachings, all esoteric teachings, the positive pole is taken as being the masculine, and the negative pole is taken as being the feminine. Now, I just want to cover this, and this is why I've got a battery here with me today, is I've taught this before, and I, in front of a live audience physically, and I got taken on with people going like, so you're saying that men are positive and women are negative. Therefore, men are good and women are bad. And I go like, no, I'm talking about polarity. So with a battery, you wouldn't go, this is the good end and that's the bad end. You just go, that's the positive end and that's the negative end, right? Now, here's an interesting thing. The energy in a battery flows from the negative to the positive, not from the positive to the negative. Now, this is a really important thing to get around polarity, in that I'm going to turn the flip chart over, but what polarity requires and what attraction requires is polarity. If there's no polarity there, there's no attraction. So for there to be polarity, I've got there two batteries. They need to be positive to negative and negative to positive. Otherwise, there's no attraction and there's no energy flowing. So, an important thing, and by the way, this isn't talking about being physically male or female, and I'm talking about the physical body. It's not about having a male body or a female body. It's about the polarity. So people in same-sex relationships, to be attracted to each other, they still have a polarity. This is a really important thing to get, because without it, there's no attraction. If the batteries were the same way up like that, there's no attraction. When it's like that, there's attraction. Now there's a possibility of having a circuit, a connection, and a flow of energy. Okay. So what we have here, and when I go male here and female here, I'm just talking about the polarity between the two. I'm not talking about the physiological things around this. You know, I've got lots of friends who are in male relationships, female relationships, and there is a polarity between them. Yeah. One has the more masculine polarity, which I'll explain to you in a moment, and the other one has a more feminine polarity, which I'll explain to you in a moment. But this is a really important thing to get from an energetic point of view. So the male energetic profile is positive polarity in the second chakra, the genitals, and negative polarity in the head. So they're like that. Yeah, if we look at it as a battery. But the energy system in the human body is not DC like a battery, it's AC, alternating current. The feminine profile of energy is they've got the positive in the head and the negative in the second chakra, the genitals. This is where we've got the polarity with the batteries. Now that allows a current or energy to flow. And that's what causes or creates the polarity. Now, you know, here's the thing, and, you know, I'm masculine polarity. I think you probably worked out I've got male physiology. And here's the thing that people who are running the male polarity would probably universally agree with. If there wasn't a feminine polarity in our universe, we wouldn't do anything. We would drink beer, watch football, and eat crisps. But when the feminine polarity comes along, then we take action. So here's the other thing to get with these two polarities. The masculine polarity is inactive, it's inert. It's the feminine polarity that actually has the male polarity go, okay, I need to put that shelf up, rather than sit watching football, eating crisps, and drinking beer. So polarity is required for creation, for action. Whether that polarity comes from somebody outside of you or you create the polarity inside of you, it doesn't matter. So this is what creates the attraction between two people. What people would call the sexual attraction or the sexual energy. Now we need to look at, so then the more energy you have on this level, the more you can create on the physical level. This is what Napoleon Hill was talking about with sexual transmutation, was transmuting this energy here in the second chakra to the physical level, whether it be money, financial, or anything else on the physical level. So the more energy you have here, the bigger the ability you have to move the energy down to the next level. Everything that's created on the physical plane came as a result of sexual energy, sexual attraction, and sexual polarity on that level. So, and you know what Napoleon Hill talks about is this is the why that you know the men that he studied only became materialistically or physically successful when they got into their late 40s, 50s, 60s, and you know in what he alludes to, they stopped having sex, physical sex with their partner. And they transmuted their sexual desires, their sexual energy, into creating something on the physical plane. There's another way to do that. This, by the way, this polarity is why he found that behind every man that he studied, there was a powerful woman or an influential woman. Because to be able to create big things on the physical plane, you need polarity to create the energy. It doesn't need to be a man with an influential woman. It could be a woman with an influential man. It could be a man with an influential man. It could be a woman with an influential woman. It doesn't matter. What matters is the polarity. This is really, really important. So what we want to do, therefore, so what Napoleon Hill's saying is that once a man has had kids and there's no purpose for having sex or making love anymore, then he channels his sexual energy into building his business, into making money. There's another way around that, which is, and this is where it starts to get a little bit controversial. So if you're not into this so far, please switch off. In that what we want to do is we want to create a circuit where we can build the energy, increase the energy, and hold the energy. So what a circuit requires, and you know I'm an electronics engineer, so you already know this. Even in our everyday stuff, we have male and female plugs and sockets. So what we have here is two male plugs on the end of the cable, and they don't fit because a male plug requires a female socket. Now that doesn't complete a circuit. It makes a connection, but it doesn't complete a circuit. So to create a circuit, you need two plugs and two sockets. You need a plug and a socket here, which hopefully I don't need to do a anatomical thing on this and explain what those plugs and sockets are. But to complete a plug and socket, to create a circuit, we need another plug and socket there. Then we can create a circuit of energy. So I can't think of any other way of explaining this. The plug is that. The socket is that. That completes the circuit. I did say that it was not going to be like parental, I said parental advisory here, guys, you know. So, circuit completed here, circuit completed there. Now we can circulate the energy around that circuit, and we can increase the energy in the circuit, which means that both people in that circuit, and by the way, you can do this within yourself. It doesn't need somebody else. Okay, you can do this in yourself because you have a polarity in yourself. We can increase that energy by flowing it around. Now, here's the next thing that Napoleon Hill talked about, was that when we increase our energy, we increase our connection to infinite intelligence and creative intelligence. So let's talk about that. Now, this is when, if you hadn't thought this was controversial already, this is when it gets even more controversial. Okay. So you'll see on here that I've got that here in the masculine polarity, positive is the fire element, which out of the four elements is the one that's vibrating at the highest frequency, and the one that's closest to the spirit element, which is what Napoleon Hill would define as being infinite intelligence. Water is here. Water vibrates at a lower frequency than fire. So what creates the polarity in the first place is that the masculine has fire in the genitals, which I think most women would agree with, and water in the head. Women have fire in the head, or not just women, but when I'm talking about women, I'm talking about people with the feminine polarity. Women have fire in the head and water in the genitals, which I think most men would agree with. And that's what creates the polarity and the attraction. And what that means is, and now we're going to make sure there's no kids watching this, please. When men have an orgasm, they blow their fire out and the water comes down to fill up the space. So when men have an orgasm, they become lower frequency vibration. Every time a man has an orgasm, he becomes more stupid. Now, I can say that because I'm a man. And then what he does is he rolls over and he goes, whereas when a woman has an orgasm, she blows her water out and she brings fire down, which every time a woman has an orgasm, she becomes more intelligent because she taps into infinite intelligence, because fire is a higher level frequency vibration than water. Now, that's the way that most people make love, have sex, whatever it may be. Now we're going to talk about something very different, because what we can have is that the woman has an orgasm, brings the water down and releases the water, brings the fire down, gives it to the man, he draws it up to his head. Energy flows where your attention goes, then gives it back to her, and it becomes a cycle where you get an increasing amount of energy in the second chakra. Now, what Napoleon Hill does say is he does say that in his allegorical way, says it does take a lot of willpower. More on the man. Jacob Beheim, esoteric writer in the 1700s, said, if you want to be successful in this world, look at what everybody else is doing and do the opposite. Because most people, if they're actually honest with you, are not creating the success, the kind of life that they want. So look at them, don't do what they're doing because it's not working. Look at what they're doing and do the opposite. So let's put that on this particular model. Most people's model is the man has lots of orgasms and the woman doesn't have any. Opposite. Man doesn't have any, woman has lots. At which point, most men in the audience go like, "What the?" And most women go like, "Yo, I like what this guy's saying." But this is the science behind it. This is the reason behind it. And all the people that I know that have started practicing this, you've got this thing in relationships, as in, you go to somebody, how's it going? Well, the honeymoon period's over. What does that mean? We're not having sex or making love anymore. Or they go, the spark's gone out, or the fire's gone out. That's because, sorry about this, that's because he's just shot his load too many times and can't rebuild the energy. Yep. So all the people I've taught this to and started practicing this, one is their sexual attraction increased over time, not decreased over time. Whereas most people have this idea that the sexual energy, when I got married, I was like, early 20s. My wife said to me that her grandmother said, you should get a pin cushion, and for every time you make love in the first year, you should put a pin in the cushion. And then after the first year, take the pins out the cushion, and no matter how long you're together, you'll never take all the pins out. Well, that was fucking motivational for a start. No, but what happens is the polarity disappears. It's like batteries run flat. And when batteries run flat, there's no polarity. So you've got two people who are together, but there's no polarity anymore. Polarity is vitality. It's our life essence. It's our sexual energy. It's the energy of creation. It's the last thing you want. So this enables us to increase the energy in our relationship. And the more energy we have in that circuit, one is the more connected we are to what Napoleon Hill calls infinite intelligence, what we would call our higher self. But also, we have an increasing charge, increasing energy in the second chakra, which means the energy that we have to create what we want in the physical becomes greater. And then we can flow that energy we have here to create whatever we want down here. Just noticed my speaker's gone off. Any questions? I did warn you.
So Carol Evans, you've got a question for David.
Sally, are there any questions?
David, yes.
Oh,
Put
my
your
speaker
on.
isn't connected again.
Yeah, Carol Evans has a question.
Okay.
Hi
Carol,
again, David.
how you doing? Good.
Yeah, good. Thanks. My question is, I get the energy in the second moving down to the physical, but you said you can move energy anywhere. So can you also take the energy from 5, 7, 6 and pull it down to the physical? So by doing, say, lots of mental things, but it just might be a wee bit harder to get it down to the physical.
Yes. So you can move energy from anywhere to anywhere. The thing that Napoleon Hill talks about, and I think I would agree with him on this, is he says that his words, the sexual emotion or sexual desire is the strongest of all of them.
So they get weaker as they flow up.
Yeah, I think if all of us are like really honest with that, it is really, because it is and he mentions this in the chapter, it is the energy that furthers the human race. So it is the absolutely strongest energy, emotion, desire, and the majority of people today, even today, don't get that, and therefore they misuse it and abuse it. But yes, Carol, you're quite right. We can take the energy from any chakra and move it to anywhere else. It's just that this one here is the strongest, the most powerful desire for physical creation, but not only the physical creation of another life form, like a baby, the physical creation of anything. And that's what he was talking about with the mystery of sexual transmutation, is that we can transmute that energy and use it not for creating a physical being like a baby, but creating anything on the physical plane. Does that answer your question, Carol?
It does. And it means that if you just think about it, you have to do 5 times more work.
Yes, it's like the energy here, since it's so abundant, since it's so massive. And my mum, is a little allegory for you. This is a David Shepard allegory, not a Napoleon Hill allegory. But when I first started earning money, I had a part-time job, the Co-op in central Nottingham, Parliament Street. And what I did was, with my money, by the time I got home, I bought either shoes or Elvis records. And so by the time I got home, because in the co-op where I worked, the record store was on the same floor, right? So I got my money, which was in cash, and I went to see what the latest Elvis records were. And my mum used to say to me, David, you're throwing your money around like a man with no arms. And for those of you who did Prime Concerns Masterclass, that's a great example of a non-mirror image reversing, if you like. You're throwing your money around like a man with no arms. And a lot of people throw their sexual energy around like a man or a woman with no arms. And when you do that, whether it be physically, mentally, or emotionally, you are throwing your energy away. Because the important thing with this is, from an energetic point of view, it doesn't matter whether you do it physically or mentally, it's the same.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Both from a reducing the energy in the second chakra to increasing the energy in the second chakra, it's the same, physically or mentally and emotionally.
That answers my question. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Carol. Great question.
Okay, Liz Oliver, can you ask your question, please? Which I think will give a couple of other people the answer to their question. So
David, you talked about being able to create polarity by yourself. Can you describe how you do that?
Yeah. So the thing with this is, you know, we've got a male and a physical physiology. But what we're talking about here is an energetic polarity. So whether you're male or female, you can actually increase the polarity inside of yourself because the polarity is there anyway. And, you know, I know we're in the age of transgender and all this kind of stuff, and people being able to change their physical bodies and everything. It doesn't make any difference to the polarity. In that there are men with a male physiology, with a female female energetic pattern. There are women with a female physical body and with a more male polarity. It doesn't make any difference to your physical body. So essentially then, you know, obviously I'm doing a mind read here that you've got a feminine or female polarity would be to increase the polarity inside of yourself, would be to increase the water here and the fire here. As a man, it would be to increase the fire here and increase the water here, because that's the polarity. And the polarity, or what we call in electronics, the potential difference, is the potential difference between here and here and here and here. I did do a Christmas lecture, and I was thinking about this because I did a masterclass on the Kybalion during lockdown, and I realized the correspondence between the Kybalion, by the three initiates, the seven Hermetic laws, and what I was taught as radio frequency electronics, and I did 4 lectures on that. So I'll put those up in the group if you want to watch those. But what we're talking about is increasing the potential difference between the poles inside of you.
I understand. I understand that.
Yeah, I don't really want to go into the detail about how you'd how you go about doing that, but
That was the unanswered question.
but you got the drift, right? Yeah. So you don't need a partner to be able to do this.
I did have a second question. Is that okay to ask
Okay.
that just now?
Of course.
The second question was, as we age, then typically our sexual energy diminishes. So does that mean that our creative potential will automatically go down? Or are you saying that by doing this, you can maintain it and in fact increase it?
By doing this, you can maintain it and increase it. Age doesn't have anything to do with it. I think there are things that are happening in our environment which affect it from a hormonal point of view, and there are things that we can do about that as well. And my belief is that you can maintain and build your, and we're calling it sexual energy, but we're talking, I would say, like, this is vitality. This is life force energy at its rawest form. We can build that, not only maintain it, we can build that throughout our entire life. Going into what we might need to do from an environmental point of view would be a masterclass in of itself. And yes, we can maintain, build, and increase our polarity and our sexual energy, no matter what age we are. I think that's a myth. I think it's a limiting belief. I think there are some physical components to that which we can address, but it's a bit like that myth, if you like. Well, there's the honeymoon, and the honeymoon period is over. The spark's gone out. They are limiting beliefs. There are ways that we can actually change that, both together and separately. And somebody's on their own, there are things they can do on their own. If you're with somebody else, there are things that you can do together, and it's important that you do them separately together. And I mean, here's another thing you can think about this. The less energy we have here to create the physical means that the less energy we've got to recreate our physical body. So could this lack of energy here actually be, from an energetic point of view, the cause of aging?
I look forward to that masterclass.
Oh, I'm getting so many ideas about masterclasses here.
That's great, thank you.
Any other questions, Sally?
Yep, you've got quite a few now. So Jenny, you're up.
Thanks, Sally. So, David, if I'm understanding correctly, what you're saying is this circuitry, this sexual energy is increased by multiple orgasms in the female polarity.
Yeah.
Right. So how do we actually transmute this into money creation or creation on the physical realm? Is it something just because we've got renewed vigor that it just automatically happens, or is there anything else?
Okay, Jenny, good question. But, I was with you on the masterclass at the weekend. You asked good questions then too. So there is a difference between what I've been sharing with you here and what people might describe as being sex magic. So with sex magic, there's always the idea that when people have sex, they create something, whether it be a baby or something else. So at the moment of orgasm, they create whatever they were thinking about when they had an orgasm, which, you know, for a lot of people might be quite random. Whereas with sex magic, what they do is they create a goal, they have sex, they have an orgasm, and both of them think about what it is that they want to create at the moment of orgasm. Though that will have the man reduce his energy in the second chakra and reduce the polarity between the two of them. Whereas what I've been talking about this evening is different than that, which is where the man retains the fire, draws it up, passes it to the woman. And when I talk about men and women here, I'm just want to be really careful that, you know, I'm talking about man and woman, but I'm talking about it metaphorically and symbolically. The woman receives the fire and then she draws it down. So what it does is it increases the energy in both of their second chakras. So now, just because they've got an increased energy here, whatever they are working on creating on the physical plane, i.e. goals, they create significantly quicker, more easily. And, you know, I've been teaching this now for, when did I come across it first? I came across it first about 28 years ago, 27, 28 years ago. And I started teaching it. Some people went, wow, that really makes a lot of sense. Other people went, you've got to be, mainly men, I must admit, you've got to be joking. But the ones who actually embraced it and started practicing it, what I also noticed was they started to become more physically successful. So there's two elements to that, Jenny, really. What I'm teaching here, and then also what some people would call sex magic, which is where they are using the practice of sex specifically to create something on the physical plane, rather than here where we're looking at the practice of sex. Or, I mean, you know, we got this. Well, Jenny, you were on my Prime Concerns masterclass, so you understand the semantics of this. What we're talking about here is not sex. We're talking about making love. Think about that phrase, making love. But the byproduct of that is the energy increases here, and the ability of the people to create what they want on the physical plane increases. Does that answer your question, Jenny?
Yeah, but I'm just wondering if it could be an and.
And
Well, you know, that you're creating in that chakra, but then you can also, because you mentioned right in the beginning of these classes about the lady when they were having sex or making love, and she looked at the beige, thinking the ceiling, it looks a bit beige, and it turned beige. So I didn't know whether you were talking about in that moment of orgasm, whether what you're thinking about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was actually, yeah. So the thing around this is when you practice this and you increase your energy in this cycle, anything unresolved in your relationship, or just not only the relationship you're in, but anything you've got about relationships will come up. I guess that's the kind of like the Space Family Robinson warning that would go with it, as in warning. And though, you know, I think most people here have got the wherewithal and the tools to be able to deal with that kind of stuff, but it will bring that stuff to the surface. Then, no matter which one of those two methods you want to practice, whether it be sex magic or whether you want to practice what, you know, a lot of people would call as it's a tantric practice, though in Huna it's called a lower eye. It's in the Taoist tradition, Mantak Chia has some great books about that, is that, and this is why I also recommend, you know, people do NLP, timeline therapy, because your ability to create what you're paying attention to dramatically increases. So if you're paying attention to what you don't want whilst you're doing this, then you'll create what you don't want significantly quicker. Which, you know, if you look at it in Think and Grow Rich, he's already done the whole thing about, you know, what you're paying attention to, your focus, your goals, and all that kind of stuff, before he gets to this area of increasing energy. So yeah, that's there are some caveats to it, but you know, with the people we've got here, you've got NLP, you've got timeline therapy, you've got MER, some of you got Huna. You need to let go of your unresolved stuff so that you can focus on what you want. And equally, if there's any unresolved stuff around sex or relationships, it will come up thick and fast.
Could I ask one more final question?
Sure.
Because I don't know if I'm being very slow here, but are you then talking about in this circuitry going around that even though the woman is the woman having, are you coming to the point of climax or not? Are you saying that multiple times that you come to the point of climax but not actually orgasm, and then do that repeatedly? Is that what you're talking about?
No, the woman has orgasms. She comes to climax.
Multiple times, and then
Yep.
the man withholds until finally. Okay.
And the man doesn't have any
At all.
at all, if you want to do hardcore.
Yeesh, okay. I can tell why the men are, don't think this is very popular. Okay. Thank you, David.
Yeah, that's, if you're going to go real hardcore, that's the way to do it. But you see, here's the thing with this, is that women's orgasms are majorly different from men's orgasms. So when a man doesn't have the classical male orgasm, he starts to have orgasms like women. And which are without the ejaculation, whatever, and it's purely energetic. And all I can say is that women's orgasms are way better than men's in experience. Because what the man's doing is taking the energy of this, taking it up through the energy system. And then what happens is you merge energetically. So the separation disappears. Does that answer your question, Jenny?
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Adrian.
I'm going to need more tea. Adrian.
Hi, I'm actually from Dona's account, but we're both here together.
Yeah.
Couldn't miss
Oh,
this talk.
cool. Okay, I now know which Adrian it is because I recognize your voice.
Right. So my question was, from a Huna point of view, one way to increase polarity in your own system would be, for instance, with the male energetic pattern, to flow water energy to your head and fire energy to your genitals.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
perfect. You got it.
Next question is Roger.
Roger, you've got the perfect name for this evening. I'm being playful, Roger.
I even had to think about that one, which I'm ashamed to admit that I was a bit slow there. I think it's just been answered, actually. It was a real AD question, I'm afraid. What specific chakra are you talking about with the male water and the female fire? Are you talking, are you talking 6 or 7 specifically?
Here, the
Yeah,
top,
yeah.
I'm talking about 7.
7. So it's the highest chakra, the
Highest.
pure spiritual energy,
Yeah,
which is where, is that the connection to the higher, the infinite intelligence then?
yes.
Yeah.
So what you've got here from the bodies is the spiritual body is I'll do it in color. The spiritual body is fire. The mental body is air. The emotional body is water. And the physical body is earth. And that's true of men and women. Where the differential comes in is in the genitals. So both men and women have water in the second chakra in general. Then men have the fire element in the genitals and women have the water element in the genitals, which is what creates the polarity. But fire is the closest element to spirit, because as we go from earth, water, air, fire, we are increasing in frequency. And actually, you know, Napoleon Hill actually talks about this, which when I read the chapter, I read it a number of times over the last week, he talks about frequency a lot. So what we're doing is we're increasing frequency here. And so the fire element is actually the closest element to spirit. spirit, actually, you know, the spiritual body really should be drawn like that. As in general, we've got fire in the spiritual body, but then when we go, it actually goes out to infinite in all directions on the top, which is then how, you know, this is quite an advanced technique. What happens is that both the male and the female, and from that I'm talking about the polarity, merge into the fire, and then they go and meditate in the spirit.
Terrific.
Sounds-
Yeah, it
sounds-
does. And can I just, am I getting into really dangerous territory here? If I ask, if you
like I'm not, mate.
well, I'll share your risk then. If you're a male, and we come back to Liz's question, which was also mine, which is how do you increase the energy on your own? What are you talking about in terms of increasing your sexual energy if on your own? I said it was a dangerous question.
No, it's okay. It's probably what people refer to these days as edging, which is taking yourself to the point of climax and then not.
Right. Okay.
And that will increase the energy in that chakra.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Roger.
Okay, Sandra, your question next.
Okay, I'm so interested by this now. I forgot my question.
Okay, let me find it for you. Okay, so your question was, if you have a lot of sexual energy and let's say physical sex, in whatever way we are more likely to create more in life?
Yeah, that's the question. Are we then, if you have like a lot of sexual energy, and regardless of not having a partner or having a partner, but if you have more physical sex as well, are you then more likely creating more?
More sexual energy?
No, of things that you desire, because I don't have a partner, so I'm wondering now if I'm screwed or not.
Okay. There's an immediate joke I could pull out there, but obviously without a partner, no, you're absolutely not screwed. So you don't need a partner to increase the energy in the second chakra.
No, but if, let's say, if you don't have like physical sex, you can convert the energy, as I understood. So I can convert, let's say, I don't have maybe not as much physical sex as I want, but instead I can create all other areas of my life then.
Yeah. So my experience is the amount, and you know, this is something that Napoleon Hill talks about in the chapter. He says, you know, obviously all the people he interviewed, whether he interviewed them or not, we've already talked about that, were all men. And he said they were all men that were highly sexually charged, whatever that means. So there is a direct correlation between the amount of energy you have in the second chakra and your ability to take your thoughts into physical creation, whether you have a partner or not.
Right. So then I better convert to what I don't have into something that and then when it is useful.
No, you can create what you want now.
Right. Okay.
With or without a partner. It's just a matter of how you use that energy in that chakra and then increasing the energy in that chakra.
Right. I'm looking forward to that masterclass. I mean, everyone thinks that I'm nuts.
Everybody thinks you're nuts. What do you think people think of me?
Yeah, I now found someone that's actually worse.
Yep, that's my outcome. People go like, oh my boy, I thought I was mad. Fuck, this guy is even madder than me.
No, but actually I started wondering because I used to be very close about when it was about sex. So me asking this is a total difference for me to open up and ask it. But at some point I
Right.
just started to wonder how it works, because there's more to it than just having sex.
Yep, absolutely. Oh, phew. A lot more.
Yeah.
A lot. But we're taught to be, it's not, you can't talk about it. It's rude, it's naughty, it's dirty, you know, whatever it may be. And this is what I've been talking about tonight is the reason why we're taught that.
Yeah.
Because it's our creative power.
Right.
So making it wrong, bad, rude, naughty, cuts people off from that energy and that power and stops them from being able to create what they want.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know who would want to do that.
No, but when I talk to someone and someone says something about it and I ask a question about it, they go like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And I'm going like, yeah, well, okay, well, someone has to break the whole thing, I guess. I never figured it would be me though.
There you go. Well, you've done it now.
Yeah. Well, thanks.
By the way, I don't talk about this stuff in the pub.
Oh, that's too bad. I just wanted to say, when can I meet you in the pub in Watford? Thanks.
That's a pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, Johanna, your question, please.
Yes, thank you, Sally. So my question is, David, when maybe this will answer some of the questions people have about self-sexual transmutation. I'm curious on if Kundalini breathing or meditating would be a form or an example of self-transmutation.
Yes, definitely. Though Kundalini originates here in the root chakra, and what you're doing when you do Kundalini meditation, Kundalini yoga, Kundalini breathing, whatever, is you're raising this energy here up to here. In the main, because the idea is that you do those Kundalini kind of practices to increase your spirituality. So, you know, from a Huna perspective, this is something I'm teaching the Huna trainings. Well, I've already drawn the line here. This is what most people will be taught as being a spiritual practice, which is the lesson of life, which is to raise the physical to the spiritual. So, you know, those kind of teachings go like, if you want to be spiritual, you've got to give up the physical in the extreme. Yeah. And all of the trappings of the physical, including what they would call the trappings of the second chakra, which is why you have people having to become celibate, etc. Whereas there's another way of working around this energetic system, which is what you might call a lesson of mastery, which is to bring the spiritual down into the physical. So things like Kundalini breathing, Kundalini yoga, Kundalini meditation do that bit, but they don't do that bit. And in a way, this bit is the most important bit in life. You know, Dion Fortune, who is a occultist here in London in the 1900s, said before the ascent into spirit can begin, the descent into matter must be complete. Whereas most people who get into things of a spiritual nature want to get out before they've even come in. You know, and in our Huna trainings, there is a little bit of lesson of life, but most of it is this lesson of mastery, as in how do you bring this absolutely infinite, abundant spiritual energy that we can all tap into through all levels of our life. You know, and the ancient Hawaiians believed that they lived in heaven on earth. But then they'd done the lesson of mastery. You know, a quote from Tony Robbins, he said the mistake that most people make is they believe that they're a physical being here to have a spiritual experience. But in actual fact, you're a spiritual being here to have a physical experience. You were spiritual before you came in. You'll be a spiritual when you go out. What you're here for is to experience being a spiritual being in a physical plane. So yeah, so you're quite right with Kundalini experiences, etc., etc., etc. Kundalini practices, yeah, and then what we're really talking about here, from Napoleon Hill's Key to Sexual Transmutation, is then taking this energy back down rather than leaving it up here.
Right. Okay. The reason I asked is I see in how I was taught Kundalini is that it was more the circular, almost the infinity symbol in the way that you're breathing that pattern. But now as you're explaining this to me, and I completely understand it from the Huna standpoint,
right?
It seems to point itself to more of Tantra would be like the quick way or the more concentrated, way to achieve the self transmutation.
Yeah, and you're quite right. And balanced.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Rad. Thank you.
Okay. Sally, any more questions?
Yep. Nazia has got a question.
Nazia.
Hold on. David, I think you kind of that obviously there's one way of losing this energy when you actually have an orgasm. This is what I meant.
For men,
you also
yeah.
said there are other ways of losing this energy. I think you said mentally and emotionally. And what exactly does that mean?
So what I was meaning by that, is that when I was talking about like my mum saying you're throwing your money around like a man with no arms. Yeah, okay. So the level of energy, there's no difference between imagination and physically.
Right.
So, you know, if you imagine or think of someone in a sexual way, then the energy from the second chakra will go to them.
Right. Right.
whether you've actually had whether you've actually had physical sex or whether you've actually made love with them physically or not, from an energetic point of view, it's the same thing.
So that's just basically kind of imagination or thinking or actually looking.
Yeah,
that
so
as well.
you know, yeah, you're walking down the street and you go like, whoa.
Yeah.
Your energies flowed.
Yeah. Exactly.
So you know, but if you look at, you know, Jacob Beheim's point of view, the world today is created, you know, if you looked at media, to have people do that, to have people look at each other in a sexual way, and it's made it okay. So I think that the thing is, you know, you can look at somebody else and go, you know, me, I go, wow, she's attractive, she's sexy, she's got a nice body. From an appreciation point of view, but there's no energy behind it. Yeah, and therefore women can do the same thing. You know, he's attractive, he's nice, nice body, whatever. Appreciate what that person looks like, but there's no energy behind it, because you wouldn't really want to do an energetic transfer until you had permission anyway. Because otherwise it's a violation of boundaries. Does that answer your question, Nazir? I think Nazir might have gone, Sally. So
Yeah, I guess so. And Lisa, you've got a question for us tonight.
where is Lisa?
Sorry, I forgot to unmute. It was while you were talking that it suddenly made me think this energy that, you know, goes from the second right up, from the second plane right up to the top plane. And if a man is a very sexually active person and you know, has low morals, I suppose, a way of describing it. And could that person, when they reach to that higher level, make disastrous decisions as opposed to decisions of abundance?
Yeah. And equally, though, what they're doing, if they're not doing what we're talking about here, which, I mean, what we're talking about here is really only really practical in a monogamous relationship.
Right.
And like what you're talking about is quite the opposite from the male point of view. So each time they're going to be blowing the fire out.
Yeah.
Some people have more fire than others, just naturally. So some people, that fire will blow out quicker than others. And though, whenever they do that, they will create whatever they were thinking about at the time.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, David.
Okay.
Roger, you're back up.
Again, like Roger, you're back up.
Yeah,
Oh.
so, sorry about that. Oh dear, oh dear. That's low. Yeah, in answer to Joe's question, you talked about going from physical to spiritual.
Yep.
Kundalini and so on, which was all about lessening of life. How, I'm sorry if you've already answered it and I'm being slow. How'd you go the other way from the spiritual to the physical, which of course is where the spiritual to the money comes in, isn't it? Presumably, yeah. What are you referring to there, in essence?
Well, your energy flows where your attention goes. So the purpose, the idea of this is, and what we're doing here is by physical practices, increasing the energy in the second chakra, taking it up to the crown chakra, which enables the man to control it, but then bringing it back down. So, you know, what you've got, and as I say, you don't need to, there are other ways of doing this besides sexual practices, but, you know, this evening was, you know, mystery of sexual transmutation. At the spiritual level, you've got infinite, perfect energy. So if you capture that and then bring it down through the 7 levels of creation, then it means you can create physical abundance, sexual abundance, emotional abundance, mental abundance, visionary abundance, all brought down from spiritual abundance. And this is also not only abundant, infinite, it's perfect. And the law really is, you know, your energy flows where your attention goes. So what Napoleon Hill's talking about in this chapter, it's just that bit. And in actual fact, there's a lot more to it than that. This is what I teach in the Huna intensive, is the ability for people to tap into the spiritual abundance and then bring it down into the physical. That was really what Huna is about. For me, is more about that than that, because my whole thing about Huna was always about how do I manage to bring this infinite, perfect energy down through all the levels into the physical realm. And, you know, the Hawaiians, before the missionaries arrived in 1820, that was their experience. I mean, the reason why they believed they lived in heaven on earth is because they didn't need or want for anything. They lived in a completely abundant universe, as far as they were concerned. There were no dangerous animals, insects, reptiles, and they had an abundance of food. So they didn't want for anything. Now, we would have a different idea of abundance today than they did. But, you know, Uncle George Naopi always used to say that God, or the creator, was very kind to the Hawaiians because he didn't give them oil or gold or diamonds or minerals. The only thing he gave them was abundance and an abundance of aloha, which is why they were left alone for so long. It's an interesting perspective when you think about that. And you know, the whole thing between male and female, the other thing he used to say was that the thing is, women need to get that they are significantly more powerful than men, because men can't give birth. And that's, therefore, women have the ultimate creative energy because they can give birth to another life form. Men can't do that in any way, shape, or form. So that was his take on, what some people call male and female dominance. He goes, the thing that men need to realize is, and this is what I've been talking about with polarity. Roger, you got, when as men, when there's no women around, we do fuck all, right? It's only when there's a woman comes in and there's a polarity flow and there's a circuit there that we go like, okay, I need to do something. I need to put up that shelf. Otherwise, we just, I don't like football, but I just watch YouTube videos about cars and guitars and do nothing. But a woman comes on, there's a polarity there. You're like, okay, right, I need to start doing something now.
Yeah,
So,
I thought it was just because I was a lazy bastard and needed someone to give me a kick up the arse. There you go.
well, that's what the feminine energy does.
No, it's great, David.
So
Great take.
This is the thing. The male is the inactive, and the feminine is the active. Even though we've got the male as being the positive polarity and the negative polarity, and it's the same, with my batteries. And this comes from my electronics background. You got the positive pole and the negative pole, but the actual energy flows from the negative to the positive, not from the positive to the negative. And that's what it's like in nature. And without both, there is no energy. And without both, there can't be a polarity. And when there's a polarity, then the energy can flow.
Thank you. Brilliant.
All right. Cheers,
Brilliant.
Roger.
And that was the last question, I believe.
Wow. I think that's a record.
Can I just ask you one follow-up so quickly, David?
Is that Nazia?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I recognized.
Sorry. This spiritual to physical flow. How does that actually physically happen? What do you need to do kind of make that flow happen?
Yeah, so this is something that we teach in the Huna intro or the Huna intensive, is that we do. There's also the idea of the three minds, which I've gone through before in earlier sessions. Sally, we can probably put up the Huna webinar in the group.
Okay.
We'll send it out to people because that will go into this in more detail. But once you connect with spirit, which is something that we do in the intro and also in the level 1 intensive, then you can connect with that energy, and then no matter what level you're working on, your energy flows where your attention goes.
Right.
So you put your attention up here, and then you bring your attention down through the levels.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Is that all the
That is all the questions.
Well,
Good job.
It's hot in here under these lights. So thanks, guys, for joining me. Good session. Great. Probably the most controversial session I've done so far. But there we go. We had to do it. I've been on so many events about Think and Grow Rich, by the way. And, you know, at that premiere that I went to with my friend who was in the in that movie, he was on the stage, and there's these other people who were in the movie on the stage, and they were saying, like, so who's gonna deal with the secrets of sexual transmutation? And they all kind of laughed about it, and then none of them did, which I was kind of quite disappointed about, because I just wanted to get their take on it. But I certainly already had my take on it, and that's what you've had this evening. So maybe they were embarrassed, or maybe they didn't know. But there we go. I'll have to put a parental advisory warning on the download on the replay. So what we got next week is the subconscious mind, or what Milton Erickson would call the unconscious mind. So that'll be a good one when we get into that. So that'll be same time, same bat channel. Remember to stay connected. See you next week, guys.
See you.
Bye.